in 1 Chronicles 11, and I think it's verse 13, where David again, the psalmist, is caught in enemy territory. And he asks people to go and bring him a drink of water from the well of Bethlehem. And they bring him the drink, the water, through enemy-infested territory. And when he gets it, he says, I can't drink this. He pours it out on the ground as an offering to God. And then he says, God forbid that I should drink the blood of these who risk their lives. What did he mean? He meant, I don't want to take advantage of their possible death for me. And that's simply what it means. To eat the flesh, to drink the blood, means to take advantage of Jesus' death for me. That's what it really means here. When it means that by faith I accept him into my life, for the forgiveness of my sins, I am taking advantage of all that he did for me. That is what it means, don't you think?
Oh, it is. And I think that, as so often with teaching in John, that if we put him into the context of the whole of Scripture, he's clear. If we lift him out and try and understand him in other ways, it becomes complicated.
The Bible interprets the Bible. I mean, I think we have to say that in the end. So we go straight from Jesus offering his life to the world, and in chapter 7, here's a whole crowd wanting to take his life from him. Do you see that in chapter 7, Anne? They want to kill him. Is that possible?
You know, it seems almost ludicrous, doesn't it, to think that you could take the life of the Creator, that the one who is the Lord of life and the giver of life, that you could take his life. So of course they could not take his life. Even on the cross, when they crucified him, in the end, they couldn't take his life. He said, no one can take my life. He would willingly lay it down, but nobody could take it from him. And so I think it's... But it's interesting, contrasted with what you and Paul were just speaking of, when he was offering his life, and now they're trying to take it. But when he offers his life, it's on God's terms. Yes. And he offers his flesh and blood. And I think it's not only taking advantage of it and appropriating it, but you know, when you eat something, like if we ate a cookie, you take it into you, you digest it, it becomes a part of you. And Jesus wants to be taken into us, in a sense, that he would become a part of us. We're not talking about attaching ourselves to a religion or a creed, or, you know, it's actually, he becomes so personal that we receive him into our bodies, and he lives within us. And so he wants us to receive him that way, but to try to take his life, and they were actually trying to not just dismiss him, but reject him, to put him away. You can't possibly. And people today who want to ignore Jesus, or keep him in a little church-sized box, or, you know, put him on the periphery of our lives. You can't, because you can't put him away like that. He won't be put away. And so you can't take his life, but he willingly gives it to those who would receive him by faith.
And that's a glorious statement for you to make and for us to share in. Maybe I'll give you 30 seconds, Paul. Well, perhaps just about that. And as we're looking at the last bit, the last half of chapter 7, showing us the worldwide gospel, I mean, how does it do that? I think it does, doesn't it?
The key is, verse 37, on the last and greatest day of the feast. The feast there, the Feast of Tabernacles, there's been 7 days of sacrifices. And if we read in Numbers, we'll see all of them are listed, the sacrifices. There were 70 bulls sacrificed, 14, 13, 12, 10, 11, 10, like throughout the week, and then the 70 on the 7th day. Why? Because in the Bible, 70 marks the nations of the world.